You're listening to Rewilding Humanity, the podcast for those who've walked through the fire and came back with medicine. I'm Krysta, artist, plant alchemist, and a woman initiated by illness, grief, and spirit. Here, we rise from collapse, reclaim our wild, and remember who the hell we are. Let's get into it. Well, I'm excited to have this conversation with you today.
Me too.
And yeah, for anybody listening, if you haven't listened to the trilogy and the last podcast, so the podcast previous to yours
Yep.
is with my business partner, Keegan.
Okay.
And we actually came together after pretty horrendous experiences after plant medicine. Yeah. And so we're like in this process. It's been, a year and a half, almost 2 years of integration for both of us. A lot of it has been like, what the actual fuck happened? I think in my case, like it wasn't so much interference that tipped me over the edge. There was like a few things that were also going on in my system, but I have been part of quote unquote healing circles where I have left with stuff before. And spirituality, plant medicine, all of this stuff is just becoming so mainstream now.
Yeah.
And I think it's important at this time for people to understand the unseen aspects of, the plant spirits, but also like what you can be opening yourself up to.
Yes.
And that is so much about what you talk about on your platform, which I think is so incredible. So I'd love to start with just learning a little bit more about you and what drew you to this work around energetic protection and entity awareness.
Yeah. Well, I think today is going to be such a powerful conversation. And I invite anyone in your audience who feels any tinge of fear at any time to know that. Same. It's totally normal to feel fear about having conversations about what's truly unseen. And I want to create a normalcy, not around the continuation of the fear, but the validation of the fear. Because I believe in the spiritual community, it's not often talked about. And really, at this time, know what to do with these experiences that we have. And so I want you to know that I've been traumatized in the past from different experiences like this. And I've been able to heal and build myself up and build my capacity, which has led me to the work today. And if at any time anyone feels fear, I want you to know that this is the space to validate it, not to try to suppress it or transcend it or get beyond it or bypass it, but simply just allow yourself to recognize that at this stage of the journey of maybe receiving this information that feels like truth in your body, there's a little bit of fear in it, and that's also okay. So to name a little bit about my journey here, my spiritual awakening started in 2019. And for me, it began mostly around a culmination of repetitive relational patterns leading to a breakup, which then sparked the awareness that I was the common denominator. I think this is kind of vanilla, if you will, for like, most people's experiences. It's like, I died and then I woke up and mine just happened to be around relationships. And so that was the vanilla story that led me to just question, there's conditioning and things make you this way, and why was I this way? And so this led me to the art and the act of meditation. Just honestly, because I had struggled with substance abuse, I had struggled with being a high performer, I had a lot of addiction in my past, and clearly a lot of trauma that led me to some relational patterns. And so meditation felt like no risk, not dangerous, nothing to lose. And so I started with gentle meditations, which then led me to some guided meditations, deeper I would get, to which led me to a connection with a spirit. It was the first spirit I had ever connected with, consciously, I guess, if you will. And it was my grandfather, who had passed many years before I had ever met him. And it was such a miraculous moment because I got confirmation from my mother that as a child I would talk to my grandfather, and then he kind of became this spirit guide for me, which is so fantastic. But then from that veil piercing, I became your average new age, if you will. I began to really fall in love with tarot as a modality, a tool to help me grow my channel. I also connected with astrology and deeply loved the art, and still do, to both of these methods. Like I love them as modalities. In space in the perfect time and space. And so I studied astrology, and then I began to see other people perform Reiki, and I was really repelled by the idea of using symbols or some other frequency to channel something through. It felt like, oh, that's not natural for me. I think that maybe in my own path, I could do something in the quantum field without using a different frequency or using symbols. And so I actually started to become an energy healer naturally, guided by either piecemealing what I learned from guided meditations about how they would walk people through different preparations and kind of studying how other people were connecting in a way that felt more true to me. Long story short, I was 2020, 2021, 2022 queen channeler. I went full alien. I was bringing through collective messages for the world. I was booked out with clients, energy healing clients, mostly working on like pain and trauma, not necessarily the type of removal work I do now. So kind of keeping surface level, if you will. And then at the end of 2022, I noticed around actually preceding that summer, we made a environmental change. We were living out in Vancouver. We decided to move home, but in the interim, we were living like in the area, but not in our actual home at the time. So we're at a transitional phase. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night feeling like I was being choked by something. And I had never had an experience like that. And because I didn't have a reference for what that was, I thought, oh, a nightmare, just like any other person probably would. However, I continued to experience these nightmares. And then on top of that, I would start to realize that, well, now I'm starting to have panic attacks. That's quite intriguing. Like I couldn't go into a grocery store without feeling this heightened, threatened feeling in my body. I had struggled with anxiety, but not to that degree. It became debilitating. Like I couldn't go in the car around the block without feeling some sort of threat, and I couldn't pinpoint it. And then it got worse. And I started to experience suicidal ideation. And it would come out of nowhere. Something would trigger something, and I call it the black tunnel. And I felt like I would enter this black tunnel, and in this black tunnel, I felt like I couldn't get out. And the only thing that could help me get out was my fiance and my dog, providing that unconditional love and saying, hey, this is not you. You've got a big plan for your life. You've got so much love around you. Look at this beautiful life you live. And I would somehow just feel like I snapped out of it. Long story short, this continued long enough that I was in need of figuring out what it was. And when I looked to the spiritual community, I felt like I had no frame of reference for this. And so I reached out to an energy healer that I knew that was very remote energy healer, doesn't exist on social media. It's the closest thing to, a real energy healer that I honestly knew that wasn't really like an online influencer, basically. And so I reached out to her from the time that I knew her, and I said, I think I need some help. And she's like, yeah, I think you do. And so this is actually when I learned that I had multiple nefarious entity attachments that had found me. Actually, when I relocated back home to my family, and the energy was so dense for me around my family, has been my entire life, that it triggered my weak spot vibrationally. And these entities found me and found my energy and actually began to siphon me when I relocated. And so these entities had been searching for me, had found me, and had been siphoning my energy for what was like well over 6 months.
Wow.
And so I then started this extraordinary fight for my life. And that's the only way I can explain it. People don't like to use the words danger, fight, threat, emergency, but these were all things that I experienced because otherwise I was going to harm myself, off myself. I was never going to actually be able to immerse myself back in the world because everything started to feel like a threat. And my entire healing business just crumbled in front of my eyes because if I had this, and God forbid what could ever happen to my clients, like everything stopped, for lack of a better explanation. It had to in order to do it in integrity because I didn't even know this was happening to me. And so I began to feel what this fight felt like with these entities. I would reach out to my healer at 2 a.m. because I would wake up with this choking sensation. She'd be awake with me all night trying to hold my energy and battle these things. There was all these ways that they were trying to enter my energy with my partner and the way that I would flip on his energy and I'd have to fight for it. And my fiance would have to reach out to my healer and say, Victoria's not okay right now. And she'd have to reach out to me and be like, snap out of it. Like I went through this for such a long time after I actually found out I had them. that I walked through the fight of my life. And then slowly but surely, it felt like my eyes started to brighten again, like I had come out of this hibernation, this like deep slumber. And after that happened, I realized like there is no way that I can never tell this story. And there's no way that I can't, well, one, of course, do my work completely differently now, because whatever I was doing was not working. Whatever I did, I opened up something. I allowed myself to somehow be available for this. I can't channel aliens like I did. I can't do client work like I did, where I just like do it anywhere at any time. Like there was no frame for my work at all. And then two, like how that impacted everybody else around me, there needed to be a completely different structure because I was putting everybody else at harm's risk by the way I was doing the spiritual work. And so ultimately, that was a very long-winded way, but I think it's important for, the audience here to get all the pieces so they can understand deeply, like, what led me to experiencing such dark attack and overcoming it, and then now creating a framework about psychic protection that I am so impassioned by, and I'm so thankful that, since this time in 2022, I've been talking about it more, and I feel like finally the world is ready to receive it, and it felt like 2023, 2024, I felt like I was fucking alone. Like I felt like everyone in the spiritual community was gaslighting it by saying it was low vibration or that I was the problem and that I consented to it and that I needed to transcend it. I didn't have an ally, so I became that ally. And now I'm starting to see really powerful souls like yourself and so many others saying, this happened to me and I am not a victim to it. It's because of power. It's because of sensitivity. It's also because of recklessness. And now I'm going to do differently.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that. That sounds absolutely terrifying, and especially having to deal with it for so long. And for anybody listening who may not be like as into spirituality as we are and some of the topics that we're discussing when it comes to like aliens and entities and all these different things, it really is something that I have come to believe is true, right? Because I mean, there's just so much out there that is unseen. And my experience luckily didn't last too long. And it happened after a plant medicine journey a couple of years ago. There was definitely a lack of boundaries and integrity in the space. And someone who was next to me was given a lot of medicine, like more than they should have. And I think because I had connected with them, because I was worried about this person, nobody else really seemed to be, but I was just like, this guy's like really fucked up. Like this is not good. And I'm, open. Something transferred, and I just felt really weird for a couple of weeks. And thankfully, my intuition was like, yo, reach out. I had a shaman that lived close by that I would see every once in a while for Reiki. And she just popped into my head because it was so strange. It was like I had these feelings of euphoria and then like just exhaustion. I was in bed all the time. My guts felt really strange. It was like I was kind of drunk. And I had people, actually, two friends had come over completely different times. One of them is like not into spiritual stuff at all, but they both had the same experience where they walked into my house and they both said that as soon as they walked into the house, it was like their ears popped and like they were underwater. And I was like, weird. So I go to see my shaman and I walk in and she's like, what is on you? Like she could just see it right away. And thankfully, it only took 2 sessions to get it off, which she was explaining, which she's like, it's not an actual, because there's different types of entities and stuff, and we can talk about that. But in my case, it wasn't something that had consciousness. It was just kind of like this blob thing that'll just stick to you when something is going from something lower vibration. It wants something at higher vibration. And that's just what happens. And it can make you feel drunk and all of these different things, right? So thankfully, I got it dealt with fairly quickly. But yeah, I almost crashed my car like 3 times just going to drive to her place. Because I
Wow.
was like so out of it. Yeah. Yeah. And then in the case of my business partner, and I'd love to unpack this a little bit later too, because it's like right? Like he's still so confused about the whole ordeal, but it was actually in the same medicine space, quote unquote medicine, facilitated by the same folks and at totally different times. But in his case, immediately after the ceremony, he had like all this crippling stomach pain and basically ended up with a medical anomaly that just suddenly he had to have like a huge part of his intestines removed.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I don't understand like how the fuck does like physical stuff happen? Like I don't know. Like I don't know. This is why I want to interview people like you because
Yeah.
and this isn't to like freak people out. And there is a time and space for using plant medicine, but we want to encourage people to do it much more responsibly and just understand like all of the different dynamics and things that are out there. So
Yes.
like how would you define an energetic entity or an attachment and like how do they show up?
I would call it a parasitic life form.
Mm.
And some of them are not totally conscious. Some of them are just, to your point, like what I would call an energy attachment. So this person had an extraordinary process. There was a lot of trauma, a lot of pain that they were maybe experiencing. That energy current that had basically created a form of attachment could latch to your energy field. And so it creates more of an emotional, like energetic response, a little less than mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Like I'm getting really hit with something that has swung so significantly more, usually like financially, usually physically, than just kind of like energetically and emotionally. And so parasitic life form, because my perspective is that they don't just exist in this third dimensional plane, which might be an argument or a debate depending on who I'm talking to. I believe that there are different dimensional beings that have different agendas and they're not all benevolent. So, for example, a fifth dimensional entity, or we maybe would call it like an ET, might have the intention to host your body. And through channeling, you open up your conduit. You believe that you're talking to Mary Magdalene. You consent to the vibration of Mary Magdalene into your energy, which means you then consent to the vibration of whatever that nefarious attachment was into your field.
Okay,
You know,
this is crazy because I have a girlfriend who's very intuitive. She's a beautiful healer, and she had a similar experience
Yeah.
where someone had come to her because, like, she can see, and it looked like Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene. I can't remember, one of the two, but she knew like something wasn't quite right. And she had to be very careful about like her intention. And so this being came and she was like, nah, like I see through you. And then it kind of like dissolved and she could see the real thing. And I was just like, whoa, like that is whack.
Exactly. And it happens all the time because if we do not challenge them and we only focus on raising our vibration, then we miss the fact that equal to raising our vibration, growing our discernment is of equal importance.
Mm-hmm.
And that in the pursuit of, at least in my experience, raising my vibration, I still have multiple entity attachments. Because raising my vibration to me means raising my gratitude, raising my love, raising my light, like raising my frequency of energy doesn't necessarily mean that I'm aware of how subtleties of energy shift. It doesn't mean that I'm aware of what my energy needs at every given moment so that I can be in my sovereignty. It doesn't mean that I challenge every spirit that comes through. Those to me are different skills, and vibration without discernment, in my opinion, is just bypass. And so different dimensional beings will work to parasite basically off of your energy through different ways. 3D beings or parasites, you'll expect them mostly in your gut in the form of an actual physical parasite. Right? Or we might call them like a narcissist or somebody who has the desire to pull and extract from your light cords. So they have an intention to basically extract from your natural light. And then in the 4D, you'll find a lot of astral spirits, so trapped spirits. Either souls that don't want to go back to the light and they're kind of existing in the liminal space between this third dimensional physical reality. They've obviously passed, so they can't be in 3D, but they can give signs and like scratch your walls or try to manipulate physical matter to try to spook you, basically. Living in the walls of their old farmhouse because they don't want to go back to the light. Like, they could kind of torment and torture in 4D. Also, they also torment through the dream time. They enter your energy through the dreams. Your energy is very open. You get different attacks. So it's a lot more, to me. This happens in the frequency of being open but not closing. So, like, the beings will work with people who are like, I just have all these spirits in my home because it's a farm home. It's like, okay. Like, we don't even realize that we are subconsciously consenting to it. And then with 5D beings, what I tend to find is that they manipulate more through our channel. So delivering false light guidance that we consent to and we allow in our vibration. Allowing ourselves to be basically available for all different types of modalities, even if the motivator is desperation or curiosity, which I don't make investments from. So if I'm desperate because I need an answer for something, that means I'm disconnected from my intuition. And if I'm curious about something and it's not right for me right now, then that's also making an investment from a place of, I'm curious about this, even though that might not be the right path for me. And so when we make those investments, like, oh, I want to go see that healer because I'm curious because they can, I don't know, read the Akashic records, and I have questions about that, then I open a door to a reader that I'm curious about, but is maybe not coming from full and complete truth. And then I can experience either through the actual reader themselves if they have an entity attachment, or through what they open in my energy. They open up something they don't close, it can enter through my field. So it's kind of like opening doors to the spirit world. I find more so with 5D beings, that's how they kind of hijack and manipulate.
Wild.
Yeah, I think that education piece is really important because in my experience, the issue with the beings that I had on my energy had nothing to do with the fact that, well, one, that I was in a lower vibration. I'm an extremely powerful soul. That's why they were attacking me. Why would they hunt me from lifetime to lifetime if I was a weak spirit? It doesn't make sense. So I completely dropped out the, like, you're in a low vibration, that's why they attached to you. And then it was, well, they were strong enough to be able to team up on my vibration and take me down. And they were strong enough to not make it known to me. That's some pretty savvy manipulation, wouldn't you say? Like, it took me many months to be able to recognize, and I do this work, that something wasn't right.
Yeah.
So maybe they're more sophisticated than what we're talking about. Maybe they're not just these, like, ghouls and goblins that are walking around that, like, latch onto us when we're holding fear frequency. Maybe there's a different dialogue, and that understanding them from different dimensions, I think, opens up our awareness to maybe a different dialogue about how they attach, why they attach, and how we can be more mindful.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think for the average person listening, right? So, like, there's folks that may be much more spiritually inclined and are doing the meditations and are practicing channeling and all of that stuff. Like, that's one level.
Yeah.
But then we have folks, let's say they're thinking about going on, like, a mushroom journey, or they are, like, even healing events. Like,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your perspective on that, because I've actually been to events where I've left feeling kind of whack, or, like, weird stuff happened right after, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, this feels not quite right. So,
Yes.
yeah. What do you think about that? Because it's like, what aspect creates this openness? Because, it could be plant medicine, there's intention, there's all of these different things. Like, let's unpack that a little bit more.
So I've actually made a really powerful post about this before, about why I've never been to a retreat and why I would never go to a group healing event. Unless it was someone that was actually trained under my methodology that I trusted was protecting the space, vetting every person who came in, which at a certain point in this capitalistic world we live in, and how healing has really become consumption, people are not really considering the people that are coming to the space. And so there's this level of, like, well, people are responsible for themselves. And as a facilitator, I trust that they're making the right decision. For me, it's like, that's actually enough for me to realize that you're not the facilitator for me. Because if you're not considering what my safety is, and you're just assuming that I have the responsibility, you're misunderstanding your role as the facilitator, which is to be responsible for what the vibration is And if you're not able to be responsible for what's going on in the vibration of the space, you shouldn't be facilitating. So that basically knocks out most facilitators.
Yeah.
And I'd say that with reverence and respect, but it's like if you're being called to the shamanic path, if you're being called to the plant medicine path, if you're being called to the psychic path of connecting and opening, you dang well better know how to vet spiritual energy, psychic energy, different forms of attack. You better be able to know how to discern in a room. And you better be able to know who's coming into your space in the fullest capacity that you know how. You must have a frame to be able to protect and prepare the space. And then you yourself also need to make sure that you don't have interference. Because what I find a lot of times is the actual facilitator itself has the spiritual interference. They don't know it. And then they bring all these people to a space. I'll give you a great example. There's this woman that was like a spiritual influencer, if you will. Was really deep in like spirit, new age, all these different tools connecting with the divine. And then she kind of flipped and went really Christian.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
But all these people, you see, they invested in her long before she changed into Christianity. And so they had all these tickets to go to this event for her. And it happened recently. Now, I want to preface this by saying a lot of the people that were there were people who've been through my method, that are either presently training with me or graduates of my Sovereign Healer School or are just friends. And so some of them go to this retreat. And they feel something is off. She's talking about who is going to be anointed and who needs to be removed of the possessions that they have so that they can get to God and they can meet the light. And there's only one way to God, and it's through Christ, and you need to repent, and you need to... And some of these women were feeling really uncomfortable. Next thing you know, the photographer is having meetings afterwards and talking with the leader of this retreat. And the photographer is feeling quite uncomfortable because this girl is starting to talk about the people at the retreat, saying who needs to basically go to the Lord. Like, who do we need to remove and repent from all of their attachments? And this is not what this retreat is supposed to be about. I should also acknowledge that. This is supposed to be a retreat for business.
What?
Aha. This is not about coming back to the Lord. This is a retreat on business, marketing, like, okay? This is not about God and Jesus. And so some of my clients reached out to me. Some of them were like, I am so afraid right now. Like, what do I do? Some of my friends are there. And so I gave some guidance. Some of the people that were there were like, I just want you to know, we just finished one of the events, and I want you to know that I packed up my things, and I'm going to be sneaking out of this retreat early. And I have had multiple people reach out to me from that particular retreat saying, what you have taught me allowed me to trust what I felt, know something was off, and be brave enough to walk away. See, the issue is sometimes when people are in it, when they feel like it's wrong, it's like a bad relationship. You can convince yourself it's right so much, even though deep down you know it's wrong, and you'd rather inflict harm on yourself than acknowledge the reality.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of times people go with pure intentions, go to a space that ends up shocking them, and then sometimes it's too late to turn out and turn back and walk away. And so this is just one example among many that happen. And so if I can offer this advice for anyone who's listening still here and hasn't been like, this is a crazy conversation. Anytime you're going to invest in any sort of group space, really take the time to sit with how the facilitator is talking about how they are protecting your transformation. Not just glorifying the transformation itself. A lot of people can do extraordinary work and help you transform. I do not doubt that at all. But we want to protect the transformation that you're going there for. If you're going there to heal your nervous system, and that's what the retreat is about, or that's what the group healing is about, really feel into, do you feel like this person is in integrity? Do you feel like this person is able to protect you and everyone else around you? And the way that they speak about the space, the way that they talk about what matters to them in this space, they're all little clues. And so if they say, when you come to this retreat, when you come to this group space, here are some of the protective protocols I'm putting in place to make sure that you and everyone is protected. Right? When you come in, we have a full cleansing, we have full cleansing experience and protocol. I have a healer that I've hired. A lot of people hire me actually for retreats, so I will be there on a spiritual end. So I'll go in psychically and protect the space for them. I'll make sure that the vibrations are good. I'll scan through while people are in ceremony, make sure there's no attachments. Like if the retreat person talks about that, that know that maybe it's a safer person in these times that we're in to consider opening with. And if you don't get that, then I encourage you to consider what is the motivator behind this investment, and can we maybe make the motivator come from truth and not from curiosity or desire or lack.
Interesting. Yeah, what you just spoke to about having that additional support of someone who can see to watch over people, I think is really important. I know at the one journey that I had done, we did our own personal kind of energetic boundary thing. Clearly it didn't fucking work. I feel like there has to be more to it than that.
Yeah, there usually is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to hear that people are like, put yourself in a protective bubble. Like, that's fantastic. And for highly sensitive people, there's usually a bigger prep that's involved. When I lead global light work, so I do global work for the planet. When people come to join me for that type of work, before they're even able to sit in the house, I do well over 30 minutes of like complete flushing of the energy in the home, on the land, connecting with the spirits on the land, setting my power on the land, like not trying to override the intelligence of the ancestors on the land, but being very clear that I come as a benevolent spirit, feeling the different spiritual energies, working with the elements, working with the flow on the land, protecting every room, commanding over every room, putting very strong domes up in this space. Like the protocol that it takes before anyone even walks in the door and actually like sits in the space is like the biggest part of the work. It's like the prep and the close is so important, but most people are just like, I lit some incense, I set an intention, welcome, namaste, have a seat, let's open up. We're gonna start drinking ayahuasca in 3, 2, 1. It's like it's like sex without foreplay.
Yeah, totally. Okay, question.
Yep.
So the last journey that I had done, which actually had sent my nervous system into just an absolute crash. There was a lot of confusion for me around it because I had done a very low dose of medicine, trusted the facilitators. I didn't know anybody else really who was in the group setting. But what I had experienced was something that I hadn't experienced before. And so the medicine that I had done, which was Shuma, and from what I understand, it's like very heart opening. And in my case, like I had these experiences where I felt like I could physically feel physical things happened in relation to other people's experiences. So, for example, one woman was sharing about a lot of emotional pain. And when I touched her, I had like this stabbing pain in my heart. Another woman had a reaction to the medicine and had some hives. I didn't even touch her, and I noticed that my chest was itchy. I had some bumps, and then her hives were gone. And so, just stuff like that. And like, what can you do to protect yourself? Or like, what was I just maybe a lot more empathetic than I thought maybe I knew? Like, I don't know. It's still something that I'm processing. And I don't really have any desire to step into healing spaces anymore, like ever again. Yeah, I'm good. But just for anybody else listening who, is feeling called but wants to be able to protect themselves.
So there's a lot of nuance, right? I think the first thing is if you don't know the consciousness of the plant, it's hard to really understand maybe what the consciousness of the plant would bring up inside of his space. But being that I don't know too much about the plant itself, but listening to what you share her about it being a heart opener, this is an assumption, speaking into this here, not complete and ultimate truth. It could potentially be that due to the fact that this drink opens up the heart consciousness, that you were in more of an open energy field, and being in a more open energy field is so much easier for bleed throughs to happen. Think about a bleed through, exactly what you would think. If you cut yourself and you're wearing a long sleeve shirt, then it would bleed through the shirt. If you're very sensitive, you're utilizing a plant that opens up the heart, and you do not have either super strong command over your energy, really deep connection to your sovereignty. The motivator is not necessarily 100% totally clear, which I'm not saying that it is in this case, but these are just different variables for our audience here. Then what can end up happening is while you are opening your energies, kind of like wearing that long sleeve shirt that's like bleeding through. And then people are having these emotional experiences and the fragments are leaving their auric field and it's just like landing on you. Like a snowflake that lands on you. Next thing you know, you're like, oh, I'm itchy. You touch that person, you connect auras. Now it's kind of bleeding through into your energy. And so there's a few things you can do about this. The first thing is I also want to acknowledge that everybody has their unique way of connecting with spirit. For some people, I have read about this, that they actually, and I can't imagine a career in this. I feel like the expiry date would be very imminent, but they actually can process whatever that person was experiencing completely through their own vessel, which to me feels like clairsentience on steroids. Like if you have cancer, I would be like, and is in your ovaries. Like I'd be like, oh my God, I feel, and I can like imagine the mass, and I could like, people can actually kind of process it and like decompose it through their vessel. And I know that that is an inlet, a way that somebody connects spiritually. And so I kind of also acknowledge that as a sidebar. However, even in that case, you would need such a strong flushing process to make sure that you don't pick up any of what that is. Because now if you're processing it through your body, you're carrying it with you and then you're like leaving and it's not like completely releasing. And so I use 4 major things: ground, shield, protect, and cleanse. I'll add in command because this would be beneficial for you. Before I even go to any event, I will always shield up. So I will put myself in a protective shield. If I'm going to a new place, I'll always gold shield. Gold is the strongest. Sometimes I'll put a metal ring around it just to like protect it in full strength. And I will set an intention to hold the full strength of this gold shield. And then I'll place in a grounding cord. So imagine opening up my root chakra and placing a grounding cord so that I don't actually ever leave my vessel. Basically connecting your soul. Imagine you're connecting your soul into the socket. That's what you're imagining. That the socket is your body, you're plugging yourself in and you're saying, I'm not available to leave. So now you're in your golden bubble and now you're setting an intention, deep breath, imagining your root chakras opening and like an anchor or maybe a fishing rod, if that works better for the visual of our audience here. You imagine that the actual like rod and the string that goes out is the cord and it's going down into the earth. You'll know when it feels right. Some people like to put it right in the center of the earth and they can see it. Some people like to put it a few inches below the earth. Trust yourself. And then wait till you feel it connect. And when that sensation is connected, you'll know because it'll feel like your body just softens. Like the earth is holding you. So now I've got my shields up and I'm protected. And I've got my grounding cord. I'm now going to welcome in a command. I would go something like this. As I step into this space today, I step in as a sovereign being of light. I am absolutely unavailable for any tears, leaks, attachments, or fragments that have access to my energy. Anybody's energy that is having an experience in this field today, I am unavailable to pick up anything from their field. As a sovereign being of light, I contain the full strength of my energy. I command all of my sovereignty into my body. And as I move in today, I move in as complete control of my energy. So it is. So what am I saying here? I'm basically saying what I am not available for because of who I am. And that command is now saying everything I've done, the grounding cord of in my body and the shield, this is what I'm not fucking around with. Like I'm not available for anything. The command solidifies it because words are law. So I'm now commanding it over my field and then I step into the space. Anytime I notice little things like that person's energies, I feel like it's trying to like, if it's trying to knock on my door, imagine you have your shield up. It's like trying to enter. It's like kind of giving you the ick. You're kind of feeling weird. You're feeling some things. Command. I am unavailable for this. I am a sovereign being of light. As I'm in this space, I revoke access to anything. Now I'm saying I'm not available. It's like someone's knocking on your door at 2 a.m. What are you going to do? You going to open the door? Hey, how are you? No, not available. They keep knocking. I call the police. The police is the I revoke. Right? I revoke access to this. Now let's say we complete whatever the event was. Now, as I leave and I get home to my comfort, I'm going to go through a cleansing, a commanding, and then a closing down of my shield. So the cleanse, you can either use smoke if that feels good, if you feel really connected to the actual natural physical properties of the elements we possess. So using some sort of sage or Palo Santo if that suits you, and actually setting an intention to cleanse your energy of anything you picked up from today. If there's anything that's lingering, you are unavailable for it as you cleanse your energy. Mm-hmm. From here, as I'm cleansing, I'm now going to add in the command. I command over my energy that I am clearing anything I have picked up from today. And now I'm calling back the full, complete natural strength of my own sovereignty, bringing myself back into my natural energy and completely clearing anything I've picked up. So in this command, I'm basically saying, releasing anything final that I picked up and calling my own energy back. And then finally, I take a few deep breaths and I collapse that golden shield. Setting an intention and releasing the golden shield once I'm back in a safe space. This prep and close is literally rock solid. If people can actually give 100% strength into it, if anything penetrates into it, few things. One, you're too sensitive. So we got to work on maybe another level of a shield. Two, you didn't give it your full all. You were like, I command over my energy. No, you have to bring your heart into it and really reclaim over your own energy who you truly are. Or there was something very nefarious happening in the field that was really distorting the energy. Those are the 3 variables.
Okay.
And if we can really work with those in full strength, the prep and the closed, we'll have a completely different experience. And then it's not like, well, now I can never go to those things. It's like when I go, I now know what to do so that no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. That was a masterclass.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's funny because I've been told to do these practices and I swear, me and consistency, it's such a struggle. It's a huge growth edge for me. But I was instructed, and I used to do these nightly routines where I would envision my energy and the cord going into the earth and all of that sort of stuff. So I think this is just a really good reminder for anyone that is partaking in any sort of spiritual experiences. There's a responsibility on your part to make sure that you take care of your energetic space. And yes, there's a big part on the facilitator too, but this is a thing where it's we can't necessarily be pointing fingers all the time and, oh, it's this person's fault and maybe they have an entity and fuck, probably, who knows, right? But there's power in understanding that we can protect ourselves regardless of the situation.
Totally.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And for anybody that might be confused as to what do you mean, put a fucking thing around me and whatever, can you explain how visualization and intention creates these elements?
Well, everything in this world started with an intention. So everything starts as vibration and then it turns into matter. So that's basically all that we're doing here. And so if you can imagine your energy, and maybe you'll find something that suits you better. Maybe imagining yourself inside of a balloon. Taking a deep breath, imagining that your heart opens, the front of your heart opens like a flower, and then you place yourself inside of a balloon, and that balloon just happens to be gold. Or potentially an egg. I love to use the egg. If you're the yolk, the egg is the white, Taking a deep breath, opening up your heart, and imagining that you're inside of an egg. What does that do? It basically protects your aura because all of your chakras have projections, and those projections that shoot out of your chakras, those are your auric layers. And so what we're doing is we're protecting your aura so that nothing can enter through your aura into your chakras or through your energy system.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Really, the point here is that, and the way I like to explain it is that nature shows us that protection is to preserve life. If you look at the thorn of the rose, if you look at the shell of the turtle, if you look at the spray of the skunk, the sting of the bee, I'm sure you're probably thinking in your head, I can think about all those things that have protection. Nature shows us that it's not a problem to protect ourselves and that they're not doing it out of fear. It's nature's way of preserving itself. And so we at some point I have some stubborn students in my Sovereign Healer Mastermind right now that love to be like, I want to meditate inside. And I'm like, fine, don't. But just know that if you get attacked, don't be mad at me when I say that I told you so. Because you're going to have to develop your second skin at some time. And when I say second skin, I mean the part of you that is an energetic being, that is a soul having a human experience, that is waking up on a very crazy dualistic planet. You can be mad at me now and kick and scream and do these simple protocols to protect your energy. Or you can come to me when it's way too late and you need to spend a lot of money to hire me to help you get on your natural path of life. Because you got too stubborn, and the more stubborn you got, the worse the interference got, and then now your life is shit, and now you're like, I have to sell a kidney to do this spiritual work, when, like, it doesn't have to be that way. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, I like to say, humans will learn through extreme what they need. And so if you feel resistance at any time, I encourage you not to do it. Don't do the work. And then when the lesson comes, which at some point it may, then you'll realize that you needed your second skin, and you'll put on that extra shield just in the same way as you put on your underwear and your pants before you walked out of the house today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. So Keegan, my business partner, and I have both also talked about how we have stepped into healing spaces where we felt resistance, even physically. Like I was sick, like I had a cold and didn't want to go to the one where I had that particular experience, and that could have been a message. Yeah. And I chose to ignore it. And yes, there was some peer pressure, but I mean, that shouldn't be the reason that you participate in something that your inner knowing is telling you not to do, or even your body, right? Like there's so much wisdom in our body. Yeah. Yeah. So that's super important. Can we talk about some signs that someone might have picked up, like an energetic hitchhiker? And like that could be somebody like me had an experience where you just physically feel weird. But I'm also curious about people who may have picked stuff up and it's shifting their, I want to say like trajectory in life, but like, I don't know, I just have this feeling that, because I know I see this happening all the time. People are they're doing a whole bunch of plant medicine journeys or whatever, and then they're like, oh, now I'm a medicine woman or whatever. And it's just like, really? Like, so I'm wondering if there's something there too that needs to be spoken about, and how can somebody get curious around whether that's actually their path or if there's something else interfering?
Well, I think the first thing to acknowledge is our job is to live in integrity with our intuition at all times. Every single thing we do should be from the place of this feels right. And so anytime we're not doing that and we move from a place of, I want validation, I want to get out of where I am, I want a shortcut, I want it to be easier, it's been so hard for so long, they look like they have it easier. Anytime we move from that place, there's going to be a very clear acknowledgement that we have now fallen off what our natural path is. When I say natural path, all I mean is exactly what it sounds like. You have a path that is natural for your soul to grow. When you go to what is unnatural because you're looking for something outside of you, you have now fallen off your natural path of life. That's it. It's like, this was the road, and now I've decided over here looks really nice because following my intuition has brought me so much heartache and so much expansion and so much discomfort, and I'm not there yet, and why hasn't it happened to me? And so I want to go over here. And the next thing you know, you're detouring. So the first sign is asking yourself, how deeply are you living in integrity with what feels right in your life? That'll tell you how close you are to your natural path. Second part of this is, let's say you're like, I think I am living on my natural path of life. Like, I feel like I'm making all of the right decisions. Then when you go to different environments or you're around different people or you're experiencing different dynamics, I always like to say, notice the feeling. It's not always like, no. It's not always super significant. I tend to find that it's a little bit more subtle. It's that feeling where your body's like, I don't really know how I feel about that. It's like, something isn't really sitting right. I don't really know why. Like, sometimes it's not always completely obvious. Like, the facilitator might seem super cool. The vibe might actually look like a lot of fun. Like, you could totally afford it. Like there might be a lot of variables. It might seem like it could be right, but there's just this that lives in your body. And that is a sign of your discernment alarm going off. It's not giving, wee, call the ambulance. It's just giving, this is not right on your natural path at this time. And so you want to live in integrity with that. And you want to honor that 100% without doubting that voice. The issue is we often need something so big in order for us to trust that that was proof.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires a different level of emotional intelligence and trust in yourself to trust something that feels not so loud that it's obvious, but not so quiet that you can't hear it if you're in the right frame of mind. Discernment is the next piece, being able to trust the feelings. And a lot of times it isn't always going to feel like 100% no. And it's not always going to feel like it's not 100% negative either. That's false light. False light isn't always, this is so completely obviously wrong. It might feel a little bit right. I kind of like that message. But they've built a lot of success. Like, I know the people that are going to that retreat. You're cool. It's subtle, but it's subtle enough with enough of a no in the body that has to be honored. But I just wanted to bring that in for the audience as well. Like, don't expect alarm bells. Expect something to feel just a little bit That little bit will build and build and build and build and build and build and build until you learn the lesson, because that's oftentimes how humans work, until you can trust yourself enough to go, oh, I got that feeling. It just means not right now. That's good. I'm unplugged. I'm out.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, and what I think so beautiful about it is that it's yours, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That might change. Like what's, I don't know right now. It's not coming from your ego. It's coming from something in your body that is acknowledging that something is not totally right. And that may change. Maybe they do the healing work. Maybe you do some deeper healing work and now suddenly you're like, oh, whoa, now it's actually a no. Or maybe it's a, yeah, actually, I can handle this. This feels right. I can do this. But the point is, can you be in integrity enough with your intuition? Can you follow what feels right over and over and over again? So when that feeling comes in, you're not already so far off the mark by giving your entire life to like what other people think you should be doing or other people think you should be healing. So that, to your point earlier, like you go in a psychiatrist, you come out a medicine woman, like now you're completely off your natural path of life. You were already off to begin with. You know, you already gave away your power and your autonomy or your voice by being like, well, that seems kind of cool. I'm really curious about that. And inside your intuition's like, no, that's not right. You're like, yeah, but they make $1 million. Go over there. Like, I feel like it ends up being so obvious when people are off their natural path of life because there's signs that they were already kind of falling off by way of curiosity, desire, abandonment of their inner needs over and over and over again.
Yeah. I'm just like processing that and thinking of like so many different instances and things where I definitely gave my power away in the past, and that curiosity. I mean, when you're a seeker too.
Totally.
Right?
And like, I think it's like the same thing as transitioning out of like the maiden to the mother phase or right into the king energy. You know, my work comes when people are ready to shift into whatever that mother or king archetype looks like for people. And so what that means maybe in your life cycle is that you're done needing validation from the world.
Yeah.
And you've drank enough of the ayahuasca, you've done enough of the things, you've explored enough, and you've realized deep, deep, deep down, you still feel a little bit empty. Deep, deep, deep down, you know you're not totally fulfilled. Deep, deep, deep down, you don't totally know your own soul, your own unique abilities, your own gifts. You've touched everybody else's Kool-Aid and tried it, but deep down, you don't know your own. And that's when it's time to move into more of a sovereign way of working with our gifts and abilities and our expansion. I call it secure your ascension. You know, when you're insecure, you're like, who cares? Like, I want all the validation. Like, I'm a starseed on planet Earth. I want to touch everything, try everything, explore my consciousness. And then you're like, well, actually now, like, I kind of want to find like my husband, you know, it's like, I'm done Tinder dating. I want to find my long-term partner. It's like, I'm kind of done getting all the Akashic readings to fill a void. Like, it's very clear I've lived many lifetimes as a healer. How many times do I need to hear that until I actually embody that? It's like, I understand, like, we have a full moon coming. I don't need a tarot reader to constantly tell me every full moon what I'm going to be feeling. Why don't I just ask myself what I'm feeling? Like, at some time, we just realize that we're searching for that same dopamine hit that we had before our awakening. It's just different now because it's in the guise of seeking. Have we gotten any closer to finding ourselves? I mean, in my experience, I was more lost the more I saw it. And it wasn't because the more I saw it, like, the more of a student I became. It was because the more insecure I became, the more information I got because I didn't have myself.
Yeah.
So, like, the tools that I've offered here, they're just about giving you back your energy and saying, hey, before you go in, just check your motivator, right? Just sit with the part of you that's maybe you've been sitting looking at your bank account saying my life sucks. And the next thing you know, you see a business mentor who can tell you that you can build a 10K a month business in 30 days. Like, notice why you're moving. And now suddenly you're transitioning out of this, I need so I can feel whole, and I need that so I can feel better, and I need that so I can feel validated. It's like, I've got me. And all of that other stuff is great if it comes, but if not, I'm going to be okay. That's the energy I want to cultivate for people.
Yeah, there's so much power in that. And I can speak to that, well, quite a bit with my recent life transition. I just stopped doing all the spiritual things.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I would ever go back to it. I felt betrayed, to be honest, because I had gone through something so difficult.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, fuck. Like,
I
if
know.
my spirit guides could make this stop, why aren't they making it stop? Like, why do I have to keep going through this bullshit over and over again? Like, why does everything have to be so hard? And to be honest, like, I'm in a place in my life now where I don't do the morning routine. I'm not exercising. I'm not pushing myself. I'm not, doing the fucking 10 steps and all the things. And I'm so over it.
Yeah. 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 And, to your
And I've
point,
never been happier, right? Like, I've never felt better. I mean, like, there's still stuff that I'm working through, but it's like I needed that whole pause on everything. And it's not that I don't want that connection and I don't enjoy an event from time to time. But again, it's interesting. It's like we talk about giving away our power. And this was a big thing that we talked about a lot on podcasts prior to this season. And a lot of that was about like giving away our power to authorities and like medical establishment and all of these different things. But then there's also like this other aspect of like healing and gurus and,
Yep.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I just don't want people to get to the point that I got to or other people have experienced really difficult things. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that hard. I mean, apparently it does for me because that's part of my soul path. And then to share about it.
Yeah. Well, same, and I
Yeah.
just speak because I think this will be valuable for your audience. I feel called to share this. Like, I have some of the most extraordinary gifts that I know, and I'm not using anything outside of me. It's there. I promise it's there. You don't need the things. And the thing is, I also want to acknowledge, to the point I mentioned a little bit earlier, like, some people, everybody has unique inlets, meaning the way that they connect with spiritual energy is unique to them. And the way outlet that they're meant to give it to the world, it's all unique. Each and every single one of us, it's unique. And so maybe the way that you outlet it or offer it to the world is utilizing different modalities that have existed. And this is not a conversation to say they don't matter or that they're not valuable. My point in this is there is a way to safely tap into your understanding of what your soul is here for and the unique expression of what those gifts are without leaving your meditation cushion. That's what I teach. The entire Sovereign Healer School principle is all about, can you sit in meditation for 9 months in an enclosed space practicing specific tools and learn to hear your own soul. Because what ends up happening is natural gifts start to open at a speed that when you're not forcing it and you're not resisting it, things happen. Isn't it interesting? When we're not forcing outcomes and we're not resisting what is, suddenly things start to open up that we could never have imagined. And that's what I've lived, and that's what I want to offer other people. So for those of you who are like, I'm afraid to let go of the tools that I've done because, like, what if the things don't keep happening? I don't work out every day. I work out when I feel like it. I don't do rituals every day. I do subconscious reprogramming through tapping for 3 to 5 minutes a day. And then I do spiritual work. I don't drink my pee, eat a carnivore diet, count my calories. I live a good life. And I'm a healer, a badass one at that. But they both have a seat at the table. And actually, the more I lean into my human, the better I am as a healer. And regardless of both, what matters the most is that I know who I am as a soul, and I don't need anybody else to tell me that. And I want you to know that things can get so much better as well if you're afraid of letting things go because they have an attachment to you. If you can just ask yourself, what do you really desire? And for most of it, it's like, I just want to feel fulfillment. I just want to feel free. I just want to feel like I know why I'm here. What if I told you you could find those things in the center of your own meditation? Wouldn't it feel so much better to find it inside of you? Isn't that really what you want anyways? To feel inside of you that whatever they're offering you validates a part of you that you feel in you? What if we could make sure that you could feel that within you? That's the sovereign healer way. And it does exist. And I honestly think it's the new way that we're stepping into.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I think it was important, because I think sometimes we're afraid to let go of the attachments to the things. It takes an experience like what you and I had to be like, well, we're fucking channeling aliens anymore. I'm telling you that because I don't need it in order to be spiritual. I don't need it to feel validated or cool. And I let go of that. And when I let go of that, so much more came that I was like, wow, I just needed to let go of that attachment to feeling like I needed to belong as a starseed. And instead, I actually took more care of my human. And then suddenly all these things happened. So permission for anybody who's like, ooh, I would love to let go of like reading tarot cards all the time. I'd love to let go of, the pressure I put on myself to get my ritual right so my manifestation can come. Like, what if it was just like another day and it just happened to be a full moon and we were all going to be okay and we didn't need somebody else to tell us that we weren't okay or that we should release something and we could just be okay. And if something got released, again, we would be okay. What permission? And then suddenly we're not living our life letting external environments control us, but we're allowing whatever is influencing us to move us if we want it to.
Yeah. What a beautiful contemplation to end this podcast. I do have one more question for you.
Yeah, I can keep it short.
Okay. What advice do you have for someone who feels off after maybe a ceremony or an event or a channeling experience? Like, I mean, not everybody just has like a fucking shaman neighbor like I did. Like, what do you do? And like, what's the first step?
So the first thing is I want to address the difference between integration and some sort of attack on your energy. When you have an extraordinary experience through a medicine journey or retreat, you healed some stuff. Let's call it that. You activated some stuff, some things came up. And then you try to integrate back into your real life. What might happen is things may actually fall apart. The relationship that you realized wasn't right for you, the job that didn't totally serve you, the car that's been breaking down like crazy. But there was in that this understanding that all of that was meant to be. It might hurt like heck. It might be hard to accept, but you can feel that it feels right. You take a deep breath and you go, okay, my partner and I just broke up. I had a fight with my boss. This is all after this retreat. You take a few deep breaths. You can feel that at the end of the day, you knew that that was ultimately right. That's integration. Something is changing, but it's not off. Now, how do we know when something's off and there's maybe something external happening? Things go from super high to an accelerated low, and it doesn't make sense. You have a happy, healthy relationship. There's no reason why you should be separating, and next thing you know, you tell him that you want to move to Timbuktu, and that he's the worst partner you've ever had and you want to leave him. It's invasive. It doesn't make any sense. It's foreign. The things that are happening in your career, you were supposed to have a promotion. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't have been. You were prepared for it. You go in for the job. They say, actually, we want to let you off. And you're thinking, that makes no sense. In your body, there's this understanding that something foreign is there. Something that doesn't make sense or doesn't add up in a way that feels natural. So first thing is discerning those two differences, because sometimes I think people think I'm integrating, but they actually have something that happened, or they had something that happened and they say I'm integrating. Bottom line is you can feel it. Next thing from here, let's say something is truly off and there's something external. It's true, not everybody has a shaman in their backyard. I encourage you to give me a follow, because a lot of the things I talk about is like how to revoke if you have an attack. What to do, how to do it, what does it look like? And then ultimately, if you have somebody in your space and you trust them enough, or pray over the fact if you don't have them, like praying over somebody who can help you remove it, then someone will naturally come forward. But depending on the strength of whatever attached will depend on how hard it is on your energy, therefore how unobjective you can stay. And then 2, how strong of a person you need in order to be able to remove it. Because in my experience, I was not objective enough to be able to remove it on my own. And I know people who have fought unbelievable battles to remove entities on their own. It ultimately depends in your body how deep it is impacting you. And if you've got someone in your corner, definitely reach out. If you don't, pray over the right person and be open to receive, and you would be blown away by who God will show you on your social media feed.
That is so true.
Right? You're like, I need somebody who's on this path like me who can help me. Like every client, like, I've been praying for you. I'm like, yeah, I know, because that can be how the algorithm serves us.
Totally. Yeah, I've literally had that happen. Bedridden, not sure what the fuck's going on with me, and then like a post comes up and it's just so perfectly aligned, and God gives you an angel, right?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Well, thank you, Victoria. This was really helpful.
Glad.
Let's talk about where people can get in touch with you if they do have more questions and want to learn from your content, programs.
Cool. So my YouTube channel is actually starting to be up and running. I would love to welcome people to that.
Cool.
It's Victoria Pippo, Pippo, and then 4455 is my username. And I'll be posting lots of videos about interference, about the 2025 energies, what to know, how to navigate all of this wacky stuff that's happening in the world. So YouTube is a great place for me. And then otherwise you can go to my website, and that's Victoria Pippo, Inc., I-N-C, like incorporated.com. And then you'll find all of the other things, and you'll find things for you as a facilitator, as a soul who's on their awakening path. If you're, wanting to do global light work with me, spiritual work with me, it's all there.
Amazing. I will have all of those details in the show notes as well. Thank you again. And thanks for everybody who tuned in. I hope you follow Victoria's work. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on this awakening journey, let's secure our ascension together, because we all need it.
Word, sister. If this episode cracked you open, good. Share it far and wide so we can reach more people who are done pretending and ready to come home to themselves. To dive deeper into my world, explore Wildcrafted Apothecary and Sacred Art at magicmaven.com. Discover new tools for nervous system healing at mindfulmeds.io and Alchemy. Or bring your vision to life with me at the Brand Bruja. All the links and more are waiting for you in the show notes. Until next time, stay wild, stay rooted, and remember, you were made for this.